That was awesome.
Thank you. I think I'm getting better at clapping.
It is a lot easier when I sync it up.
I can imagine.
How was yesterday?
It's so bright in here.
Yeah, it's 70 degrees out. Or it was yesterday. It was warm.
It's so crazy that yesterday I put the air conditioner on because I was like cooking for my friend, and then it was so hot in here. I was like, I think I'm going to put the air on even though it's November.
Yeah, it is. It's like crazy that it's this warm in November in New York. You have a little sunlight from the corner of your screen that it looks like Jesus is trying to talk to you right now.
Maybe he is. Do you think that he's calling me to be a nun? I always thought it was weird that like how religious like clergy always say that they got a calling. I always tried doing a joke about it. It never really worked, but if I had a calling, I would just ignore it.
Yeah, it's also really funny to just state that to your friends, being like, "Oh, he didn't call you. He didn't."
Yeah, I think he wants me to join his team. And then they're like, "What are you talking about?" You're like, "I don't know. I think I'm gonna be a nun." And you're like, "What was the calling?" And you're like, "I don't know. It just kind of felt like it." And then you're like, "Well, I think it was just indigestion." And then you become a nun.
I know. It is. It's like, oh, I'm sure he'll give you a calling soon. It's just it's weird that he hasn't yet, but I'm sure it's there.
It's weird to even choose to become a nun.
Oh,
like even like when I went to Catholic school growing up, you would have like nuns and priests who would come talk to you, and they would talk about how like, well, because I went to a Catholic school.
Okay.
So they would just like come talk to you, like, I guess part of religious studies or something. So when they would talk about why they decided to do it, you're like, that sounds awful. I don't understand why you did this. Were you homeless? I don't get it.
I don't.
Why aren't
either.
homeless people just become priests?
Yeah, don't they get a place to stay?
Yeah, and you get to drink all the wine.
Yeah. I always assume with the no sex stuff or whatever, it's like a way to maybe be non-binary without coming out to your parents.
Well, I think wasn't that like a theory, not even just to like say a hack thing, that a lot of priests are like
gay
pedophiles?
Yeah.
I think I think that they're gay, and I don't want to put those two together.
No, I know
you could either be gay. You could either be gay or a pedophile.
Yes.
And then they're
not together.
Right. And then you just become a priest because you're hoping that God's going to work through it for you, I guess.
Yeah. It's crazy how prevalent pedophilia is in the Catholic Church.
In the Catholic Church, and also pretty much everywhere.
Yeah. You're like, why aren't we talking about this? I'm always amazed when two pedophilias find each other.
You mean like two adults that are looking for kids?
Yeah, meaning like, how do you just throw that out there? Test the waters.
I mean, I guess if you're a priest, you either just say, "Hey, are you gay or a kid fucker?"
Yeah.
And then they let you know which one they are. And they're like, "Well, I'm raping the nuns, so I'm actually neither."
Yeah, because I heard that was a big issue, too, that there's a lot of nun rapes happening.
I would, imagine thinking God is real and talk to you. Then you have to just think God is fucking you through these priests. That would be my mind game if I was trying to fuck all the nuns. I'd be like, God told me he wants me to fuck you. So I think I'm gonna have to have anal sex with you because God told me that's what I should do.
I know he's being so weird right now.
God's kind of the worst. He told me that I gotta bang you in the butt all week, and then all your sins are gonna be forgiven. What a weird, crazy world that like religion is.
It is. It's like he's like, I tried talking to God and I was like, isn't there something a little bit easier you can do? And he's like, no, he definitely.
He said, you have done a lot of bad stuff and I can only fuck it out of you through the butt.
And then to like believe it, being like, okay, I mean, he is our Lord and Savior.
Right. And then you find out like the other priest is just doing regular vaginal fucking to the other nun. And you're like, well, she actually did a lot worse stuff than me.
Yeah, and
So
she's
why
getting
is
vaginal.
so why am I getting fucked in the shitter? I would have to question a lot of those ethics of what's happening.
Yeah, you're like, is there anyone I can talk to that isn't God?
You're like, let me see if I could get God on the line. That's so bizarre to believe any of that stuff.
No, it's
Sorry.
absolutely,
burping 'cause I'm
all of it's
drinking this.
absolutely bonkers when you think about like talking about religion, some of the aspects of it. When you start answering questions logistically, you're like, it doesn't make any sense.
No, it's just like believing your favorite like Disney story.
Yeah.
It's all just like kind of crazy. And I went to Catholic school for a long time too. I went through 8th grade, then I went to Catholic high school, and then I went to Catholic college. So it's just weird. I've gone to Catholic school my whole life, and I don't really believe any of it.
Yeah. Well, I've heard a lot of stories of like people that go to school to like study theology end up being atheist after, because most, even Christian religion came around like way later than other religions, and it's just the same thing. So it's like whoever started Christianity just kind of took from another religion and then made it their own.
Well, it's kind of funny that I think it was Bill Burr that had that really funny joke about Scientology, where he's like, your guy is just like a guy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Name
he has,
Ron.
like, yeah, they're like, he has like a driver's license. I think that was his joke, and you're like, yeah, that's the guy that we're all believing in. That's so bizarre.
That's like that cult doc that I was watching, The Vow, on HBO about Nexium, and the guy's name is Keith. Their leader, his name is Keith. The one that plays volleyball at 2 a.m. that you're like, oh, I might like that.
Yeah, I told you there's, a bunch of Mexicans that play volleyball, and I wish they lived closer to me. It's just weird because I'm not directly neighbors with them where I could just pass by for a game. And you ever see when people are on the beach and they're playing volleyball and they just kind of invite themselves into the game?
Yeah.
I can't just wait for somebody to hit it really far into the street and then bring the ball over and then just get into the game.
In your gear, you're wearing knee pads.
I actually love volleyball, but I don't live close enough to them. I live like around the block.
Yeah, it's not like you can just you're just hanging out and you're like, oh, you want me to join? Maybe you should just pretend that they just asked you.
Be like, do you need another? And they're like, we're good. We have 100 people here.
That is true. There's a park that I go to, and then on Saturday they'll have like a volleyball game, and it'll just be like 100 people on each side.
Yeah, where you're like, they definitely don't need any extras.
You're like, what rules are you playing by? That there's like,
I don't know,
100 people on the court right now.
There's a lot of people on the court. I think the people that live directly near them cannot be happy about that.
No, I mean,
they're just playing loud volleyball games till all hours of the night.
Oh, definitely. But that's the other thing too.
Fault.
Their cult is set in Albany. It's not even like in a interesting in the mountains or in a cool desert area. It's in Albany, in a suburb area.
Are you trying to say Albany?
Is that what it is? Albany? I say
so
Albany.
I was thinking that was like another country. I'm like, where's Albany?
I guess it's Albany.
I think it's Albany, but I guess you couldn't say Albany. But
I'll say Albany.
Yeah, you say whatever God just told me you can say whatever you want.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is weird. That is. I mean, I guess if you're gonna have a cult, you want it to be somewhere that's pretty inexpensive, and Albany seems like it would be pretty cheap. You get like a 2 or 3 bedroom there for like $1,000.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal. Keith, their Vanguard was really smart about setting that up.
Well, Scientology, their rent, well, I guess because it's a church, they don't pay taxes, right? So, because they have a place in the city, which has got to be pretty expensive.
Can you just build a church and not pay rent?
I think you have to pay rent. I mean, if you get a space and like you can't just be like, hey, God's here. I'd be like, that's cool. God's got to still pay rent. Like, I'm not. gonna just give you a free ride because you made up a religion.
No, I know. I'm like, what taxes is it that religion doesn't pay?
They don't pay taxes, but I think they still have to pay,
Like property taxes?
I guess, property tax. But I think they still have to pay rent if it's a place that someone rents, right? I don't know.
I would think so. I'm just trying to find a loophole for us to find a place that we don't have to pay rent, because that's one of the biggest obstacles in my financial insecurity is paying rent here.
Well, just start a church. You also have that basement, which a lot of churches are in.
That is true. I should just start bringing people in to pray.
During
I don't know what
COVID,
we
yeah.
would pray to, though.
Just make a guy up. What's that guy right there? That lady's holding his head like this. Pray to that guy.
I forgot the actor's name, but that's the
Make
movie
it up.
After Hours. I could call it the After Hours, and that's our Lord.
Yeah, after hours, because I think church after hours sounds great. Church really isn't available. Church is usually during the most important hours of the day, but I'm up late at night, so if there was a church that was like 2, 3 in the morning, I might go.
Yeah, just for a little peace and quiet.
Just to have something to do, just to have something to talk about.
Yeah.
When I was going to church when I was in, I guess, school, my parents would not my parents, my mother would force me to go to church. And if I had a cell phone back then, church would seem a lot more bearable.
Yeah, to just play games like Candy Crush.
While you're in church. Although I don't know if you would I guess you would have to turn your Wi-Fi off.
Yeah,
Mark
I guess
Norman
so.
had that funny joke about it.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
About, I guess, it's weird they don't believe in Wi-Fi or something. Even
when it actually works.
Yeah, you can't see it, but you know it actually works. That might be his best joke.
I think so. I agree. No, I don't. I'm just trying to think of like, I remember my friends telling me that church is really boring. And I'm like, why is it so boring?
It's very boring. It's just like an old person talking about stuff you don't care about. Like if he gossips about people in the community, I would be a lot more likely to go and a lot more interested.
What if he did it in a tone that was like more interesting? Where he'd be like, okay, you guys have to promise that you won't tell anybody.
I'd be like, I'm listening. Let me hear.
Okay, so like, do you guys know this town called Sodom? Like I don't know much about religion.
I don't think that's a story they talk about a lot. They don't talk about the Sodom story a lot. It's about the Corinthians and the Ephesians.
Yeah.
And anything that ends in ands. Ephesians, Corinthians, letter of Paul. I don't know. It's stuff like that. But yeah, if they were talking about like the nuns and stuff, I would go. Like that would be a lot more interesting to me, because then it would be kind of like, I don't know, I guess like a soap opera. But right now it's very boring. It's like all these stories we already know. Nothing ever ends good. Sometimes if you have a funny priest and he does his speech or whatever, the homily or whatever the fuck it's called, if he's funny, that could be somewhat interesting, but usually it's not. Like they'll kind of reflect on the story, but it's usually boring. I
know, but sometimes my mom, I guess, had to read the Bible growing up, and some of the stories that she tells me about where they're like, here's the one part of the story that they always emphasize, but she's like, they never talk about this part of it where, like, there's one about a guy and his daughters, and then he was like, had them be raped or something like that. I don't know, where you're like, well, that's a really fascinating story. I think I could get into that.
Yeah, that's a story that I don't recall ever. I think your mom made that story up.
No, I think it had something to do with Jewish religion or something like that.
I don't know. I don't recall that story, but I would be more interested to hear about it.
Religion All right, I'll Google it.
Google it or ask Jenny to get on it.
Jenny, get on.
That's so funny.
Daughter rape story.
When we had Damien on the show, and he was just like, "Hey, did Jenny get back to you?" And we were like, "Oh, she's fake. She's definitely not real."
I know. I like that we forgot to clarify that that's an inside joke.
Right. That he's just like, "So did Jenny get back to you?" And we're like, "Oh no, she's not real." He was just waiting the whole show, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, we don't have money. We're a new church."
That is so funny. I love that he thought we had a Jenny.
Yeah, that was great. I was on Facebook yesterday, and my friend that used to do comedy and quit, and she moved to Seattle. She posted something, and I was looking through her pictures, and I came across this picture that a comic. What a crazy story this is. And I always bring it up to her. She had a comic who was, I guess, painting stuff,
Yeah.
and she painted a picture of her and this other comic who also quit. And she said, "Hey, like I painted this picture, and it's like $250 or $350." When she didn't ask for the picture, and then my friend agreed to pay it, but she didn't have money, so she just kept putting like small down payments. Like it was on like layaway, and it's a picture that looks nothing like her. So she got conned into buying a painting that looks nothing like her for like $250 or $350 by this comic that painted it.
Oh my
I was like,
God.
why did you agree to buy this? She was like, I just felt like I had to 'cause she painted me.
Absolutely not.
I would just be like, well, now you have a painting of me. I'm definitely not going to give you $250. It's so funny 'cause every time I see the painting, it makes me laugh.
I have to see this painting, and that's why also Facebook is so good for stories like that.
Yeah, I'll show you the painting. It's so funny 'cause both of them are two comics that like were friends and became friends 'cause of comedy, and then they both quit. This was also a girl that when I first started doing stand up, she loved comedy so much, like way more than I did. Like was out every night doing stand up, and I remember she said she quit because she took like an hour. Like just New York City living
Yeah.
here is so hard. Not now 'cause like nothing's going on. But she said that she worked in Queens. She had a show in Brooklyn. It took her an hour to get out there by train. The show was canceled, which happens often. And then she took a train ride back with some girl who was the worst, and she just quit that night. She was just like, I'm done. I don't want to do stand up. I don't want to live in New York anymore. And she just was out of here in a couple months.
I love that she had an epiphany.
I think that happens with a lot of people when you're doing stand up for let's see, she probably was doing stand up about 8 or 10 years. No, maybe like 8 years, closer to 8. And it was just like she had also had like 2 roommates. They kept getting bed bugs. Like it was just a shit show. She just like had a real bad run in New York City, and she also dated some terrible guys here, and it just like ruined her. She just was like, I'm out.
No, I get it. And then add social media on top of it. And then you see like people that are 2-3 years in, just like green lights non-stops, or just like, yeah, an avenue of green lights.
Or you get somebody who's just like kind of wealthy. Their parents are well off. They don't really have to have a job. They can kind of just
Take cabs everywhere.
take cabs everywhere, have a blog that's just like taking off, and you're just like, what the fuck am I doing? You know what I mean? Like you just reach a point where in your 30s and you're like, I have roommates. We keep getting bed bugs. Like I think bed bugs can ruin anything for someone, where you just like have to put all your shit in bags,
Yeah.
wash it all. You do that once or twice, you're out of New York City. It's
Absolutely.
just like living here is just not normal. And you're like living like a fucking, I don't know. I think terrorists probably live better than we do. You're just like living in these tiny quarters with people you don't really know. And she just like, it got her, and she just fucking bounced. She was like, I'm out of here. Now
No,
she
it's
lives in
good.
Seattle. Yeah, now she lives in Seattle.
I like
She has a boyfriend. They have a house. She has dogs. She sent me a picture where like her bed looks out into the water. It's like, yeah, I sometimes think of her and I'm like, she didn't make the wrong decision.
No, I mean, we had talked about it of just like doing the taxes, and you're like, oh, my expenses are equaling just as the same amount that I make in stand up. Like this is and then I'm doing all this work. It's like it's not a smart way of working. It's dumb. Like I got asked to do a short film, and I was like, oh cool. I thought it would be like, yeah, just show up in my apartment. You'll just do about an hour. It'll be really easy, kind of like how you do sketches with other comics. And then all of a sudden I'm getting like tons of emails. What's your allergies? And then I'm realizing they are SAG rate. And then and so at first when I got asked, they didn't talk about money. And then as I'm seeing like it's getting catered and all this stuff, and I have to go get COVID tested, I'm like, oh, I should be like, hey, how much am I gonna make? And then they're like, he can pay you 50. So yesterday I got asked to do COVID testing. I have to get my results by tomorrow morning, and they gave me the information Thursday afternoon, and I couldn't do it Friday because I was doing shows, and then we were doing our podcast, or did we do it yesterday? I can't remember.
Yeah, we did it yesterday.
Yesterday. So I was like, I'll go on Saturday, and then when I finally had the time to go do it, I realized, oh, the only place that's going to be open today is in Elmhurst, and it closes in an hour. So I had to take an Uber there or a Lyft. That was $20. I mean, it's just like, okay, now I'm just putting money out of my pocket to go do something for free for a thing that's probably not really going to get me to go anywhere else. You know what I mean? It's just like a nice thing to do.
Is it a SAG thing?
It is a SAG thing, but I go, she's like, I don't know, how much do you want? And then I looked it up. I was like, okay, well, SAG on a low budget says at least, I think, $600 a day. And she's like, actually, we are SAG, but if you look for something at SAG, no budget, we don't have to pay you. Maybe like cover your expenses. And she's like, the only reason why we did SAG is so we could be COVID compliance. And I was like, oh, I think I'd rather just risk it and not deal, like just show up, do my lines, and then put my mask on and then hope for the best that I didn't get COVID.
Yeah, but they probably won't let you do that without the COVID test.
Yeah. But now it's just like I took 2 hours out of my time yesterday to go get COVID tested. I spent $20. And then tomorrow I'm waking up I have to be an 8:15 call time.
I've never heard of SAG no budget. I have to be honest. I think this person's lying to you because if you call SAG up, they're supposed to pay you.
I looked it up, or I looked at the day rates. It does go from like 600 if you're at this budget. Then it goes to 100 if you're at this budget. So I think she said he can probably give you like maybe $50 to $75.
I would be like, I need $100.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I took a $20 cab to go get this dumb test. The test was $20. I had to take a $20 cab back. How long are you going to be there?
I'm not even like a main character. Hopefully, they have 2 shoots for that day, 2 location shots, and I'm at the first location, and I'm only in one location. So I'm hoping 3 hours tops. And if they make me do like 20 takes,
I'll be like, I'm out. Every extra take is going to cost you $20.
Yeah. It's like as more time goes by, like I'd rather just do this for a friend and then they can tag me on Instagram and I get a lot. Like this is just a short film that probably won't, I don't know, the 2 main people that wrote it will get like benefits, but no one's going to be like, wow, who is that girl that in that scene that did 2 lines in it?
That said 1 line. I really got the feeling that she put her all into it. It'd be funny if they're watching and they're like, that girl seems like she wasted all of her money to do this. And she probably didn't make any money off this. I really want to hire her for my next movie.
But it's so crazy because I, in my head, have like, I want to do shoot stuff but I feel so bad because a lot of times I don't have money. So what I can offer is like, okay, I can buy your meal, or I'll just ask anybody that lives within a 1 mile radius. So it's not a huge thing. And then I usually try to give them a time frame that I just need them at. So it's not a huge time suck, but like this is actually a lot of work for no money.
Are you regretting doing it?
Yes.
Okay. So you've already put too much work into it though, where you're going to show up.
Yeah, but this guy was like, the director was like, can I do a Zoom meeting so we can go over the character? So the character is, I'm just a host at an open mic. And he wants to tell me how it's supposed to be done, and that's fine, I guess so. But like, I was just gonna wasn't gonna bring anything wacky to the role. I almost didn't feel like it needed to have a meeting. You know what I mean? I wasn't gonna make like a huge acting choice.
It'd be funny if you showed up dressed like a clown. And you're like, this is how I do my open mics as I host them. I dress like a fucking clown. That's so bizarre. That's so much time that you did not get paid for. I hope you get nominated for the role at least. What? I like how you told me you auditioned to play a dumb white cunt for something and you still didn't get that.
No, I still didn't. But no, it came through Actors Access, and it was for Michael Che's show, and it was for a sketch, and it was just like, you know, like an annoying white liberal woman that's still racist. That was the take of it, which I feel like that's kind of the roles I'm probably going to be asked to audition for at least once a year.
Well, what did you have to, well, that's better than what I get. I just get gym teacher. A butch gym teacher. I think I've gotten auditions for that twice. Once it was for, it's so funny because once it was for Mindy Kaling's show.
Yeah.
And it was like to play a gym teacher, and then I heard the role just went to Fortune Feimster, and I'm like, yeah, why would you even ask me?
Yeah.
Like she's already gay and looks
like
the role.
Yeah.
Yeah, why are you even asking me to do that? It's like I guess they have to ask a certain amount of people to do stuff maybe, but you're like, you're just wasting my time.
Yeah, I remember that with the show Crashing, where they were auditioning for Pete's girlfriend that went to Jamie Lee. And when I was doing it, I already knew that Jamie Lee and Beth Stelling were writers on that show, that I was like, they're definitely thinking about them.
Yeah. And also, Jamie Lee used to date him.
Yeah, that I was like, I'm not getting this. But it feels weird to be like, yeah, I'm not going to do this because it's obvious that they already know who they're going to go for, but they just want to make sure.
But, you know, I think if you said that, they would be like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for, we're definitely not going to give you the role. That's actually so intuitive for you to know that and to know that you have zero shot.
Yeah.
Thank you for not wasting our time, and thank you for just staying home.
Because it takes about an hour of your time, and then there is a small in your head. You're like, maybe I'll bring it. But even if you did bring it, the chances are they always go with someone that they know.
Someone that they know, someone that's recommended, somebody, like you said, that writes on the show. All your opportunities are going to come from people that you know. So, like, it's the same thing. They're going to hire people they know, people that have a connection to the show. You know, him doing love scenes with somebody he's already dated seems a lot more believable or likely to happen than him and you. Like, first of all, you also had the funniest saying about him seeing him with his shirt off reminds
He's my Lena Dunham. He's where I walk into a room and I'm like, ah.
Right. So could you imagine having to do like love scenes with him?
No.
What would you do if you got that role? Would Joe be upset if you had to have like Pete Holmes' body on top of yours?
Yeah, I think he would be upset.
But say you were making a lot of money.
I think he would be okay. I think he would be okay with it.
So it depends on how much money.
If I was going to do tomorrow where I'm making love to Pete Holmes for he would be so mad at me.
No, but say you're going to be able to pay for your tiny little church rent.
Yeah.
Just have Pete Holmes' body flopping around on top of yours.
That's got to be so awkward.
I would think so, especially when you have to pretend to be really into Pete Holmes. Look at your face.
I know. It feels so rude saying that, but you're like,
I know, but it's true. I'm sure he wouldn't be thrilled about hooking up with me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like, I don't think it matters.
Yeah, it's just like if you're not it's like really. I can't even feign interest when, like, a guy or a girl, if I don't like them and they're trying to crack a joke, I won't even fake laugh. It's so hard to feign interest.
Fake laughing is very uncomfortable. Let me see your fake laugh. I don't think I can fake laugh. I'll just go LOL.
Yeah, or I'll go, oh my God, that's so funny. But, you know, I'll say that, but I feel like I also say that to stuff that's super funny.
Yeah, I don't know. Making somebody fake laugh is really rough. Like, sometimes I'll be on, like, I had a Zoom meeting the other day with this guy, and I was telling you
I love this.
So it was weird because like it was right before they had called Biden as the winner, so it was kind of tense and everyone was tense about it. So he started off the meeting with just being upset about that, which seemed weird to me during a Zoom meeting with like
It's
a
like be
producer.
professional. Yeah.
Well, and then Marlene was like, well, that's very LA though. That's like a very LA thing. And I was like, oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. So like the first 10 minutes, he just was talking to me about the election, how upset he was. 'Cause I guess at that point, maybe it looked like Trump was going to win. And then he told me that he wished he knew a Trump supporter so that he could yell at them.
You're like,
And I was like,
I can take you to my Facebook.
I was like, I'll just take you to meet my stepfather. But it was just weird to say that because I wanted to be like, hey, man, like, you don't want to get into a fight with a Trump supporter. You're like a little nerd. You're going to get the shit kicked out of you. It's just weird to even say, I want to meet a Trump supporter so I could yell at them. And you're like, okay, and then what happens after that?
I wish you stand him. You're like, yeah, definitely. I can totally wish you did that and like fucking fucked him up so good. Like you just spit on their face. Like what a weird thing to bring up in a meeting. I understand the hatred. I get it. But like how like lame and unprofessional are you?
It was, I don't know. So Marlene told me that was a very LA thing. And then I was like, I just wanted to tell him I was a Trump supporter. I was going to be like, well, you could yell at me. Why don't you yell at me? Because I actually love Trump. I think he's great. I would have liked to have just seen his demeanor.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because you're like, if your boss was a Trump voter and he was being like, I'm going to promote you all this and get you a producing credit, then he wouldn't yell at that guy.
He's not going to yell at that guy. It's just such a weird thing to just even say on a phone interview where like that's
bullshit.
the first thing we talked about for 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, man. And then he was like, what did he say? He said something about like, I don't understand everyone's obsession with these Peloton bikes. Is that how you say it?
Peloton?
Yes. And he was like, everyone's obsessed with these bikes. And I just lied to him. And he goes, what's the obsession with them? I said, I don't know. I think they just like can take you to any time period in history and you could just like bike through the Holocaust. But I don't know. I think he thought that I was being truthful. I don't even know if he thinks that's a joke or not. So he might just get one just to bike ride it like through the Underground Railroad or something.
I think that's so funny. That's an option on Peloton is that you can go through history and bike ride through it. And just so they're like, as they're pulling all the Jews to go on the train, you're just like,
you're just bike riding, trying to keep up with the train. You're like, I'm going to save you. And then you're like, oh no, you're too far ahead. I'm never going to be able to bike right up to the train now.
It's such, I would find that so fucking funny to have that.
I don't know if he thought it was true or not. I have no idea. He was like a nice guy, but it was just so weird for a conversation. And then at the end, he was asking me about like scripts and stuff. And he's like, well, I'm really looking for like feel good scripts. That's what all I kept thinking about was like Seventh Heaven, where I guess there's like a good message. And you said I could just put that on my resume and I'm going to start doing that.
I think there's so many things like, there's so many shows, and to have that as a writing credit, who's checking that? Just to be like, this next comic coming to the stage was a writer on Seventh Heaven. And then for you to do your material that you do would be such like, wow, I guess she's got range.
Be like, well, that was when I was like 12. So at 12 years old, I really had a different perspective now than I'm 40.
Yeah.
So at 12 years old, I was really into God. Wasn't Jennifer Love Hewitt on that show too?
No, maybe. No, it was just Jessica Biel.
What was she on? Party of Five? I used
Party
to
of
love
Five.
that show. Party of Five was a good show. I don't remember anything about it. Weren't they orphans and they were being raised by the hot brother?
Yeah, by their hot brother. And I watched the one episode. I loved it. Neve Campbell got pregnant, and then she was going to go get an abortion, and it was such a big deal in the family.
And then she lost it, right?
Yeah, she had a miscarriage right before they got in the car that you're like, what? That is so convenient.
I knew that was going to happen. That was my idea. I wrote on Seventh Heaven, but I also did a little guest writing on Just the Five of Us, or whatever the fuck the show was called. What was it called?
I don't know. There was 8 of us. And then there was a show about 5 people, like a coach. There was
Can't
a lot of
remember.
mixing of families where you had like 11 family members.
Wasn't there a show just the 8 of us, I guess? Maybe that's what I'm thinking of, where this guy had like
Yeah.
7 daughters or something.
I think so. There's a
I
lot
don't
of stuff in the 80s about orphans.
You mean Different Strokes when he adopted the 2 black kids?
Yeah, and then Webster was an orphan.
What was Mr. Drummond's story?
Which
He was
one?
a
His,
rich-
Mr. Drummond was
Mr.
the
Drummond-
rich guy, right? That adopted.
Yes.
What you
He
talk
adro-
about?
Right. He adopted Willis and what was the other one's name?
I don't know, but I know the older one always had problems with the law.
They're like, I see why nobody wanted you guys. Did he have problems with the law? I don't even remember that show at all. And then he had his sister Kimberly.
Yeah, and in real life, I think she ended up dying of a drug overdose.
Yeah, I think she was pretty heavy into the drugs.
Yeah, there was one episode where the little guy got bit by a dog and he had to get rabies. He got rabies shot, and it was so like traumatic for him because they had to put all the needles in his belly. I remember it being because he was like a cute little chubby kid. Punky Brewster was another orphan.
Do you know my grandmother used to feed squirrels, and then she had to get shots in her stomach also?
Really? Because she
What
got
a-
bit by one?
She got bit by, I think, more than one squirrel. She didn't learn her lesson, though, because that's the same grandmother that got hit by my grandfather for spending the rent money.
Yeah,
So she didn't learn. She was a tough cookie. She didn't learn. She didn't learn quickly.
Yeah, she just
She
had
had
a
to
lot
keep-
of faith in people and squirrels.
Well, she just kept getting a lot of punches and a lot of a lot of needles.
Grandma.
But also, why would my grandfather let my grandmother even have the rent money if he knew she was going to gamble it?
Yeah, that's on him.
They weren't making the best choices. My grandfather was a cab driver and my grandmother was a gambler. Like, that's how you're hoping to pay your rent every month. They should have opened up a church.
Yeah. That would have made more sense.
Yes. Yeah, Punky Brewster was also an orphan.
I think that's all. Like, I think we covered all the orphans in
What
the
about
80s.
Small Wonder? Was she an orphan? I know she was a robot.
She was a robot. I don't
think
know
it
her
was-
story, but I thought that the kid guy, was one of the gayest kids I've ever seen in my entire life.
Didn't you think it was weird no one ever brought up in the story that she never changed her dress?
Yeah, that is weird.
Like, even if you are a robot, but you're trying to seem real to other people, wouldn't you still have a different outfit to wear?
I guess so, or that she was just kind of like naked all the time. I wonder if
Was she naked?
no, but I mean like as a robot. Like nowadays when you watch robot movies, they're very comfortable being nude because they don't have any self-awareness.
I'm sure there was a pedophile on the writing team that was like, hey, we should probably have her naked.
Yeah, or
She's a robot. We should see her titties. I'm sure somebody on the writing team thought that. And they were like, you know what made this more believable? If she was butt naked.
that's just like it just shows you in the 80s the storylines and then like the sitcoms that were being made, it feels like everybody was on cocaine. Alf is crazy. There was
Alf
another
is real crazy.
Small Wonder is really weird. Then there was another one where the main character, her name was Edie. I thought she was pretty cool, but she was I think the show was called Out of This World. And she would talk to her dad, who was an alien, and
Wait, I think I remember this.
it would be like this orb in her room that would just light up, and she'd be like, "Dad, I'm having problems in high school."
Oh my God, I do remember that I do remember that show.
Yeah, I think it came on like Saturday or something weird like that.
I do remember that show now. But was she the only one that saw, like, nobody in her family saw it, right? It was just her talking to her dead dad?
Yeah. Or no, he was an alien. Like a Superman. You know, in Superman. I don't know.
I thought it was just like a glass globe that she talked to.
That was like purple neon.
Yes. I can't wait to get off this so I could look it up.
Yeah. Well, that one you're like, I guess it didn't last, and it's not even in syndication. There's so many shows where you're like, oh yeah, remember that show? And that you like.
Imagine Imagine trying to make Alf now.
Yeah, how do you even pitch that? I mean, they had shows like, what is it, Young Dinosaurs? Which is like a
Yes.
dinosaur family. Somebody said they just watched it because it came on like Netflix or HBO Max, and they said it's awful.
I'm sure it's unwatchable.
Yeah.
There was a girl that I went to school with that looked like Alf. Exactly like Alf. But like
What?
that's something you can't tell someone they look like Alf because that's never going to be a compliment.
No.
She just kind of had the same face.
Like that long, like a big
Like-
nose and like that
Yeah.
kind of that hair color. I think I know what you're talking about. That's a bad dye job when girls have that hair color.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't tell someone. You can't be like, you remind me of somebody, and then you're like, oh, it's actually like this alien dragon doll. And they're like, what? And you're like, you know, Alf, that like fake dog alien thing? You kind of look like him.
Yeah. Anyways, I got to go. And then you just peel out.
You're like, you peel out in your car in high school.
Well, I remember one time at work, I came in and then my boss said I look like Brad Pitt from Legends of the Fall. And I was like, I don't think that's a
That's
compliment,
actually-
even though he's a very attractive guy.
I actually think that is a compliment to look like Brad Pitt from Legends of the Fall. He's pretty good looking. Like, I wouldn't mind looking like Brad Pitt.
Yeah, because sometimes some guys, like really pretty guys like that, if you just put makeup on, they look really attractive.
It is weird though to give someone a compliment like that you may or may not take as positive, and then have to work a whole shift with them.
Just with that in your head, like, I guess maybe I parted my hair a little bit different today. And
And you're like, I guess thank you. Thank you for saying that.
no, it's just like really funny when people say that you look like somebody and you're like, it's never good.
No, when I was younger, my hair was really curly, so I would once in a while get that I look like Julia Roberts, and I was like, I think we
That's
just
a good
both have
one.
Yeah, but then I also went through a phase where people told me I look like Helena Bonham Carter. And they were like very specific. They were like from Fight Club. You're like, oh, I look dirty. I was like,
I'm weird.
I guess just look dirty and weird. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like those are the two people I only really got.
Yeah.
But Brad Pitt's pretty good. Even though it's a guy, I still think it's a good compliment.
At least it's a good looking guy.
It's a very good, Sarah, a very good looking guy. Like if somebody wanted to fuck Brad Pitt and then you showed up, they'd be like, pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, they'd be like, that. She doesn't not look like him.
Yeah. No, there's another one that I used to got. I think her name was Tracy Nelson, who was on that show Father
Breakfast
Downing
Club?
Mysteries. What?
Oh no, I thought she was in The Breakfast Club. You kind of look like the girl from that movie too.
In The Breakfast Club? Ali Shee? I'll take Ali Shee.
Is that the one that's like real?
The dandruff? I do have a lot of dandruff.
I can't really see any.
Oh, it's in there when I shake it out.
Don't shake it out. Leave it in. Instead of dyeing my hair, I just pulled all of my gray hairs out.
Did you really? Mine are just like.
But
they're
your
just
hair is blonde, so it's not that bad.
No, but it comes in like, it looks like tinsel. It's just a bummer.
It's so weird because I remember, I guess when my hair was, I don't get too much gray hair, but I remember in the beginning when I got like a couple of gray eyelashes, but I, for some reason, just thought I was like going blonde.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe I'm going blonde in my 30s. I was like, look at
This
this
is
cool,
exciting.
look at this cool blonde eyelash. And then I was like, oh, I pulled it out and I was like, oh, this is just gray. I was like, I do not have blonde eyelashes like I hoped for.
I love the idea that your body would just naturally go blonde in your 30s.
I'm like, this is my true self.
It's happening.
30.
It's finally happening.
I'm a true blonde.
I always knew it, and now it's happening. I wasn't sure, but yeah, definitely a true blonde.
I am a blonde woman.
Did you go around the city yesterday with all the celebration? It was fun to watch.
I did not go into the city for the celebration. Actually, the Bronx was pretty a lot of music was playing, but I think that's just normal.
Yeah, there was a lot of like people were honking, but at the same time you're like, yeah, but that's just also we also do that when we're mad.
Yeah, there was not that much like different excitement in my neighborhood. My neighborhood's pretty quiet for the most part.
Yeah, your neighborhood's like a suburb.
A little bit. Like I did see the people in the parking lot or in the gas station who were like playing that Mariah Carey song All I Want Is You.
Oh, for Christmas?
Yeah, there was a bunch of people in the gas station that song was playing, and I guess they were making it about Biden. So, and they were all just like happy. I was just thinking if I had to get gas and wait for that, I'd be so mad.
Yeah.
Everyone was just in the gas station happy, and I'm like, there's got to be somebody that wants gas and is just pissed off.
Oh yeah, you're like, I have to get out of here.
Yeah, I wanted to post this on social media, but I refrained because they were like, I do think it's cool that Kamala is like the first female vice president, and she's like, to all the little girls, I want to give them hope. And I was like, well, first they have to like run for vice president of the Democratic Party and lose to a white man, and then that white man has to say like racist stuff against black people, and then you have to just be his vice president to get the black vote. So it's like that's kind of the hope for young girls. You have to be in that same exact position.
You gotta, girls, you're gonna make a lot of compromises out there, and you're gonna make some decisions that aren't gonna be you're not gonna be proud of, but it got me to where I needed to be.
Right. So you're like, if that's like, because she did want to run as president, but then that got nixed. So then she had to wait for a racist white guy to run.
Yeah.
And need a minority. So it's like if you're looking for that exact situation, then you're giving a lot of people hope.
I know.
There's so many racist.
Hard.
There's so many racist white men that you can be their running partner.
It is actually hard to break into that field of politics because it is really like it has been white male
pretty
dominated
white male
for
dominated.
so long.
Yeah, and it also seems like Biden has only been successful when he's running with a black person. Like he's had to, do you know what I mean? Like he was Obama's vice president and now Kamala is his vice president. Yeah. So it's kind of like he knows he can't run by himself and get enough white votes. Or I guess he knows he can't get black votes because I think he said some pretty awful stuff about black people in the 60s.
I don't know if he said awful, but he had there was like a busing situation that was very not very fair to the black community, I think.
No, I'm pretty sure he said something bad too.
Really?
I think so.
Yeah, but
I mean, it was a
it's
it
so
was
weird
a
to
long
hold that
time ago.
against.
I know, but I still think, people are pretty upset about it. But
like
that's
that are
the thing,
alive?
Though. Yeah, but even if you bring something up from back in the day and everybody from that time period's dead, now everyone still knows you said that back then. I would have to look up and see what he said.
Yeah. But even like there's like tapes of JFK saying the N-word but in a positive way. Being like, "Oh no, those N-words are really smart. They know what they're doing." Do you know what I mean? It's like really interesting. 'Cause like
I don't think Biden was saying it in an interesting, positive way. I don't even think he said the N-word.
I don't think he said the N-word. That'd be insane.
I don't think he did, but I think he said something derogatory about black people.
Yeah.
In the 60s.
In the 60s.
I'm sure he doesn't remember it. He barely remembers anything. That was funny after you voted and then you sent me that thing that
he confused his granddaughter with his dead son.
How did his son die?
Cancer. It was really sad. I think it was cancer, or was it a plane crash? It may have been cancer.
I mean, those are both equally sad, though.
Yeah. Joe was telling me a story. He read a little memoir of a book about this guy. He was living in New York City. His daughter was sitting on a bench with another person, and then a brick fell out of the sky, like from a building, and landed on his daughter and killed her. And I was like, That's so tragic because it's like one of those things that it's not like, like you get a diagnosis with cancer, you get to like accept it and grieve as you go. That one, you're just like, she's 3 years old
And
and
you're just like,
a brick
yes.
flies out of the sky about like some accident, like a loose brick or something that falls from a building and just happens to land on your daughter and then kills her. That's the part where I have a hard time with religion, to be like, how do you believe in a God when he sends a brick from the sky to
Well, God's not sending a brick. God did not send the brick from the sky, Sarah. That's because we have free will, okay? And a bricklayer, lost one of his bricks that day. It's so weird if, like, a bricklayer was one brick short of making a house, and then he finds out it killed somebody. He's like, oh, that's where it went.
found it?
Oh, boy. That's not going to be... That is crazy, though, to be sitting somewhere and your kid gets just hit by a brick.
Yeah.
I wonder, who do you even sue?
I don't know. Because I'm sure you're like, you can't even figure out where that brick came from.
That's just like an insane... Because was it just him and his daughter? Was there other people on the bench?
I think it was one other person. And it just fell on her.
Yeah, if I was that one other person, though, I would just get up and leave. I'd be like, I don't want to deal with this guy's dead daughter right now. This is not... I just wanted to eat my apple under the tree.
To go to work.
Yeah, sorry about your dead daughter, but I'm gonna go skedaddle to work right now.
Yeah, that's like how New York is.
Did it happen in New York?
I think it did, yeah. And it only makes sense because when he told me that, I was like, I wonder that's got to happen quite a bit, or back in the day, like even when I first moved here in 2008, there were a few stories of like construction cranes falling, like not stable and then falling to the ground. And you're like, that's insane.
But that kind of makes more sense than just a loose brick. Like that seems like almost like that brick was aimed for that guy and hit his daughter.
Well, I don't think he wasn't like near it. It just, I don't think it was like thrown by a person. It just fell from a building.
That's so bizarre.
I know, but shit like that does happen. And it happens not all the time, but like there's stuff like coconuts falling from a tree that land on your head that can also kill you. And there's like 8 deaths a year from that.
Just got to stay in the house. That's why I'm so glad we're going to quarantine again when COVID numbers spike. It was interesting watching everyone on the left who I guess complained about like all Trump rallies, like, and how many people were there. And then everyone yesterday in the left was just out in the street, like thousands of people all together. So you were just yelling at like Trump people for doing that. And now you're just doing the same thing.
No, I know. That's why it's like so... I feel like it's just best to like mind your business and
just say nothing.
Yeah, just be like, it is what it is.
Yeah, I love that saying. It is what it is, because you could just write everything off, even like that brick killing that girl. That other person sitting there was just like, it is what it is.
It is what it is. You know what it is? It is what it is. Well, it's just like, I used to get annoyed by that saying because it just feels like no accountability, but you can't really be a maniacal scorekeeper or your life is going to be miserable.
No, but it was interesting to watch everyone post that.
No, it's frustrating.
It was just kind of funny, though.
Well, it was
the
like...
left is also hypocrites, too.
No, definitely. Like, when people are losing their mind that we were going to the beach when it started getting warm during the pandemic, and then, like, a week later, everyone's in the streets rioting, where you're like... Why were we getting upset with, like, people were getting mad at joggers, which was, like, insane to me.
Yeah, but, like, I went to the beach. You're not sitting on top of people.
No, it's so weird and windy that my COVID is going everywhere.
Yeah, you're like, I'm spreading it to everyone. I'm a super spreader.
Yeah, it's just being dispersed randomly.
Little droplets everywhere.
Yeah. But it's just like, all these people lose their shit. I'm like, get off social media.
If you get off social media, your life will be so much better.
Absolutely.
The only place everyone is like mad and angry is on social media. If you go outside your house right now, or if I go outside my house, everyone's just like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, it's really nice.
Nobody's screaming. Nobody's mad. Nobody's like yelling about hating Trump, or like none of that stuff really exists on the outside world unless you're in those places where it's happening.
Yeah.
Like, for the most part, though, if you go outside your house right now, nobody's mad. No one's yelling. No one's screaming about COVID
Yeah. Well, it's like what we talked about yesterday.
or
Is like
fracking.
you could be probably friends with one of your trolls and you wouldn't even know it.
Yes, if you guys met under a different... Like, somebody yesterday, I think, called me a dumb cunt. And I was like, I wonder if I met this person, I didn't open with that, if we could be friends.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, if they later just was like, dumb cunt, LOL, I'd be like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. But yeah, definitely like staying offline is better for your mental health.
Yeah, that's why I really suggest sleeping all day so you can stay off social media. If you could sleep a good 20 hours a day, you're going to really decrease your Instagram intake.
Yeah, it's going to be and you're going to save so much money.
Yes, you're not going to order anything off Amazon.
Yeah, no food. You're not going to eat. It's a great way to diet.
A great way to diet. That's when I'm my thinnest, when I'm my most depressed. I'm just sleeping the most.
It's a cleanse for sure.
But I am excited about what like the prospect of like Biden and Kamala will bring. I think people will be more excited for a bit, and then everyone will start being upset again. But like right now, people are hopeful.
Yeah, it feels fun. And at least you know what I felt like? It felt like being in a car with a drunk driver, but you made it home safely, where you're like, it was just a little intense for the last 4 years.
A little intense, but we made it through. And then we're going to also get in a car with a driver who sleeps. Like, he's not going to be
stoned.
a drunk driver, but he's going to fall asleep pretty often, and we're going to still be in jeopardy.
It's going to be a different kind of ride, but maybe Kamala will be in the passenger seat. And
that's what I'm hoping, that she's going to be doing most of the stuff and just kind of letting him sleep all day.
Yeah. Like, Biden's sleeping right now, so we're going to have to go into the next room and work out these policies.
I think if he was sleeping,
like, he's up.
He probably wouldn't even wake up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, he's probably a heavy sleeper.
I would buy a coffee table book of photos of presidents sleeping.
I would like photos just of him sleeping. I wonder what Trump will do, just because he has such a like rabid fan base. I wonder if he will like have his own talk show, or maybe he'll go on Nick DiPaolo's network and they'll just have like the Trump and Nick show.
That's really great. That would be really great for Nick.
I think that is Nick and Trump together could have such a great talk show. I would listen to it, even though I wouldn't agree with their politics.
Yeah,
I would listen to it just because I think Nick's really funny, and I think Trump is so absurd that I would love to hear some of his ideas.
It would be off. I don't know. I was gonna say off the wall. Is that the right? Out of the world.
I
have
God
no idea.
said yes.
What is it?
God. It does look like God is talking to me. God said yes.
Did God tell you that we should wrap it up because I gotta head to Brooklyn?
Oh, you're doing a daytime show, right?
Yeah, I'm doing a daytime show. It's an interview after the spot. I did a show last night and I didn't know anybody there except
Where was the
host.
show?
It was in Brooklyn. I felt so old.
Maybe they just had you there because they had to have a senior citizen there.
I don't know.
That's how I'm hoping I'm going to get booked on shows, where they're like, we need someone in their 40s to be here just to monitor and proctor.
Yeah. So we're not having ageism. Nobody talks about ageism in this business.
But it's running rampant.
Yeah. It's a huge problem.
In Brooklyn, though, I feel like Brooklyn has a lot of new comics that just probably started doing comedy.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a guy I know from Houston that moved here, and he moved here in November, and I was like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah, that was a terrible time to move to New York City. He was like, I'm going to make it, and then he's like, nope.
And he moved to, no offense to your neighborhood, but I know you have a car, but he lives in the Bronx, and you're established, so you don't have to.
Does he have a car? Because if he doesn't, that's rough.
I don't think he does, and I'm like, that's so insane. As a comic trying to like establish yourself in the city, there's like, it is so hard to run spots when you live in the Bronx.
I guess it depends where in the Bronx he lives. If he lives just kind of really uptown, like I live northeast Bronx, which is much further out and you really need a car. But he might just live really like on the concourse somewhere, which is easier to get into Manhattan.
I get, yeah, like living in Harlem or something, the lower part.
Yeah, so it might not be as bad for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sucks to move here right before the pandemic hit, 'cause you're like, I have $10,000 saved. I'm gonna make it, and then you're like, I am not gonna make it.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll work out for him though.
Yeah, there's some people have made it through. Like Sarah Cooper had a really great pandemic.
But she also has been building for years.
No,
You know what I mean, she did write
but
books and stuff.
She hit because of it with the
The Trump
TikTok
stuff?
and
That makes sense.
the lip syncing with Trump and all that.
All right, well, go to your show.
All right, I will talk to you later Tuesday.
Toodles.
All right, bye.